your fingertips by saying where you're dialing in from. I love when I say that because I feel like a radio host. Where are you calling in from? Good morning, Katie. Thank you. And Wendy from Sudbury, but I already knew that. Thank you, Katie. I hope it's Katie. If I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, you may absolutely correct me. Everyone is welcome to join on camera. This is a conversation. This time is for you. We are very excited to be able to share our expertise. You guys are super lucky to have such an incredible panel of women here to give you some experiences from our variety of backgrounds. There's a lot of different businesses represented here, a lot of different depth of experience. So we're very, very excited to share that with you today. So Kati, thank you. Is that correct? Kati. And what a perfect way to let me know how to pronounce it. Yes, excellent. Hello, Jasmine. Wonderful. Welcome. Excellent. Thank you so much. Thanks for the smiley face too, Kati. I really appreciate that. We're welcoming everybody to turn on their camera if you wish. You don't have to. It's certainly not required, but we do want you to say hello in the chat box. We'll get started in just another moment or two. Perhaps there's some people coming on, getting some morning beverages. So come on in, say hello. Let us know where you're dialing in from, zooming in from. And if you wish, tell me what's in your morning beverage this morning. Mine is coffee and it's almost gone. Don't worry, I don't need much to keep going. And with some oat milk. So, Kathy's got a veggie green juice. Wendy is inviting everybody to turn on their camera if you wish. Matcha and morning tea. Jasmine, you are ready to go. Jasmine B is ready to go. Wonderful. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Head over to the chat box, pull that up. That's a great way for you to communicate with me. I'm your moderator, which you'll hear all about in about 20 seconds. Say hello, let me know what's in your morning beverage, what's in your cup this morning. Now mine is empty. Bye-bye. Good thing I have a water bottle. Okay. I think we'll get started. As you can see from your screen that we have three fabulous, well, I mean, if I include myself, it's four, but I don't want to call myself fabulous. But we have three fabulous women to answer your questions, share your experiences, and I am excited for them to be able to introduce themselves to you. There are no questions here that are off the table. If you want to ask about entrepreneurship, if you want to ask about some of the struggles or the experiences, and especially around the focus of what we're talking about today, which really is truly the loneliness, the siloedness, I'm not sure that's actually a word, and our experience around building an entrepreneurial support network. So please ask any questions you want via the chat box. You can also raise your hand. I'll be able to see that and call on you as well. I am Carrie Garbus. I am your moderator, and I will be making this party happen. And as I mentioned, this party truly is for you. So all questions in the chat box, raise your hand. Everybody's invited to turn on their camera. Who's going to be brave and turn on their camera? You can ask a question audibly, write it, whatever you'd like. So it's my pleasure to get started and introduce the three panelists that we have. And in fact, I'm not going to do very much introducing. They're going to introduce themselves. So it is my pleasure to first bring up for her introduction is Wendy Pease. Wendy, are you ready to go? Hello.
Yes, thank you. It's great to be here. I'm president of Rapport International. I've owned the business for 17 years now. And actually, it's 16 years. Sorry, I should have done the math earlier. And at Rapport International, we connect people across languages and cultures. So anything that has to do with language written, which is called translation, and that can be websites, marketing materials, to legal documents, to regulatory, anything that has to be accurate. And then we also do spoken interpretation. So that could be meetings, doctor's appointments, legal meetings. It can be video chat. We've had interpreters on, simultaneous interpreting for conferences, multilingual chat. So we're really good at helping people figure out how to communicate across languages and cultures.
Wonderful. Thank you, Wendy. I'm going to hand it to Kathy Doyle now, and we'll hear about a little bit about who she is.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kathy Doyle. I actually have two companies. I have an alternative energy business. We do solar, wind, and biofuels. And then I also have a real estate business. And we have a host of residential apartments, 106, and we also have a number of commercial spaces. I've been in EO since 1994, so probably before many of you were born. I have found it so I think I am the longest running member of Entrepreneurs Organization here in Boston. I found it to be just an amazing resource for my business career, and I have lots of great stories to share. My current business, Fireflower Alternative Energy, was founded in 2008. That I founded after I co-founded and co-managed what became the largest woman-owned commercial brokerage in the state for 17 years. So I come to the alternative energy business with lots of information and experience on the real estate side. And I always say, I speak solar to real estate people. So that's my shtick, and I'm excited to be here, and I'm happy to be able to share all the great stories, good and bad, about my affiliation with EO. Thank you.
You're welcome. And last but certainly not least is Nicole. Take it away.
Awesome. Hey, Carrie. I would love to start off with saying that this is a really cool group of women. I'm really excited to be here. And I wanted to share just a quick little genesis story about how I started my entrepreneurial journey, because it wasn't always easy, and it's still not easy. But I remember a specific time where I was in management consulting and I was boarding a plane, and I had flown so much. I would always fly Monday morning to a client site, and I would fly Thursday night back. And I did that for almost 6 years. So racked up probably close to, over 700 flights each for my duration of management consulting. And I remember I had a really small baby face because I just looked like a child in like this suit that was too big for me with a suitcase that didn't fit me. And I was boarding onto first class because I flew so many times. And I remember sitting down and just being so sad. I was missing my mom's birthday. I was missing my friend's birthday. This was in the month of August. And I remember just sinking into this giant first class chair and just being completely miserable, completely by myself, off to a hotel to stay there by myself for 3 or 4 days. And I remember thinking that I worked really hard to get here. I worked really hard to get to this specific role with this specific company. And I really loved, and I was really proud of myself for getting there. I'm the kid of immigrants. My parents are the epitome of hard work. And I thought, this is supposed to be me feeling accomplished and being very happy, but how come I'm still so miserable? So fast forward, lots of support, and I hope to share a lot of the stories about the people I went to for support and the people that did not support me whatsoever. Oh, my webcam does this blurry thing. Hold on, let me stop the video and restart. Here we go. But I'm hoping to share some of those stories of people who did support and who didn't support me, just saying, you know what, big giant company, you're not for me. And I'd like to start my own thing and take that big risk. And taking a big risk in my family is not exactly, let's just say it wasn't well accepted. So But long story longer, I now have 3 companies. The first is a photography and videography company within the wedding space. The second is an entertainment company called Trapology Boston. It's an escape room company. Super fun, super exciting. And the third is our newest one. It's called Sterile Guys, and it's a COVID sanitation and disinfectant company.
Very cool. There's so many things that even though Nicole, you and I come from very different backgrounds, but so many things resonated with me, just very similar experiences in getting to my entrepreneurial journey as well. So thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate that. So think of lots of questions that you may want to ask all of the women, anybody specific, just let us know. You can put it in the chat box. You can also raise your hand as well. So I'm going to hand it back to Wendy for just a second, who's going to share a little bit more about herself. When she's not muted.
Yes, sorry about that. I'll also share a little bit about how I became a business owner this time. So I got laid off on both maternity leaves. I have 2 kids and I had 2 layoffs, and you'd think that would be illegal, but they were situations where one was bought out and the company moved to Maryland and they already had a senior marketing person. And then the other one, I thought, well, you know, I'm more stable. I got kids. I'll go to a bigger company and I'll be in charge of their global marketing. And they decided to do away with the corporate marketing department. So there I was with a toddler and a newborn, and I love to work. I had my own company before. I went to business school afterwards to learn how to grow businesses, wanted to be engaged with it, and also loved being a mom. And so I was trying to figure out how to be able to wear both hats, and it got kind of difficult. So I was at a venture capital firm and ran into a fellow alum who said, well, buy a business. And I said, buy a business with what money? We got to have money to do that. But it planted that seed. And that's always where, you know, the good business ideas come from. So I went back and I searched on the internet, buy a business. And I came across this little translation company for sale. And I majored in foreign service, and I've loved languages. I loved international. I kept thinking that would be really, really fun. So there I was. 2 young kids show up at the closing because my now ex-husband was already meeting us down at the Cape. And, you know, everybody's there in professional dress. And I come in with a stroller and a toddler and sign the closing documents. So that was 16 years ago, and we've grown a lot since then. I was the only employee. We now have 7 employees plus thousands of interpreters and translators that we work with. And we've got more structure around the business, and I've hired a lot of stay-at-home moms who wanted to come back and work. So we've built a culture where we deliver high quality, but we also know how to balance work and life.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wendy and I have worked together professionally, and I didn't know that story. So thank you for sharing. How exciting. Kathy, I'm going to hand it back to you for some personal experiences as well.
So yeah, thank you very much, Carrie, and thank you for sharing that, Wendy. One of the things I love about EO is the term we use now is intimacy. You know, you're instantly intimate with this host of people who you're just meeting, but you learn these great stories, and it's very valuable and really exciting. So thank you. So my share is that I was the first person in my family to go to college, and I graduated with lots and lots of debt. And so my goal out of college was do everything I can to make money and pay off that debt. And so I was doing really well. I got into real estate. It was going extremely well. And I was making a lot of money. And my one of the other women in my office, the real estate office I was in, whose name was also Kathy, said, hey, we should do this on our own. And we had only been in business for 4 years, and everybody, first of all, nobody wanted to let us into commercial real estate to begin with because they told us it wasn't a women's role. And that was 86, 87, 86, I guess it was. So, we had that to deal with. We showed that we were certainly more than capable. And yeah, we realized we can't really work for these other people anyway. We might as well just start our own company. And that's what we did. We started a commercial real estate business, and everybody looked at their watches, because we used to wear watches at the time. And they said, yeah, we give these two chicks about 5, maybe 10 minutes. And we started a business, a real estate business in 1990, which was the depth of that real estate recession. And we had nowhere to go but up. And that we did. We grew the company from just the two of us to 38 people, really successful. It's still running today. But in 2000, I should say, yeah, in 2006, I decided my son was going into middle school, and I hadn't taken much time off when he was born. But I knew he needed more than, he needed me not to be a full-time worker in order for him to make the transition from elementary school to middle school. So that's when I decided to take a lot of time off. And I went to my partners, and couldn't quite work everything out the way I wanted to. So I sold my shares to them. And I started Fireflower Alternative Energy 2008. Well, actually before that, I stayed home with him for a year, and he got so bored with me, he kept asking me when I was going to go back to work. When are you getting out of here, Mom? So obviously he didn't need me at home as much as I thought I needed to be at home. And I started my new company, which I started on my own, and I purposely started it to keep it smaller than the other company that we grew, because I feel that I'm more excited about working on transactions and deals in my business. I work with a lot of CEOs and CFOs, really smart people, and I like to be able to do that. And I wasn't doing as much of that kind of work when I was running a bigger company. So I've purposely set myself and my sights out on this company to be a little bit smaller. So it's just me. I actually had, before COVID, I had 7 other employees in the alternative energy business. And I also have about 7 employees now, I should say, in the real estate business. So I've bounced around from 2 to 30, 38, 40 people. And I like to be on the smaller side. And my business is doing pretty well. I'll tell you more about that later, but I'd like to give others a chance to talk. So Carrie, I'm going to bounce it back to you.
Thank you. And certainly, again, this time is for you, our audience. So please, any questions you have, you can put them in the chat box directly to me, and I'll hand them over to the women. You can just put them in the chat box to everybody, or raise your hand. And everybody is welcome to be on camera. Thank you, Michaela, for being brave this morning. We appreciate it. We like seeing your face. So my first question is for Nicole. Are you up for this?
Yep.
Say yes. It would be really awkward if you said no. Okay, great. Thank you. So a recent business study that I came across said that there are, and I don't know if you know this, 12.3 million women own businesses in the US. Did you have any idea it was that high?
Nope.
12.3 million, right. That's a lot of women, right? So why is entrepreneurship lonely? There's a lot of us, so why is it lonely? Or is it lonely, I should say, to you?
It is lonely. There's no doubt about it. And if I were to guess, I think it's because sometimes education pushes you into specific career paths that aren't a good fit for everybody. When I went to high school, it was always go to a good school, go to a good college. And then when I went to college, the specific one that I chose was very pushy into, you want to work for the Big Four. You want to go into accounting and finance for the Big Four. There are other careers, but if you can't, but those are, the other careers are if you can't get into the Big Four. So I felt it was very tunneled vision, and there wasn't a lot of exposure into careers that were not. I saw that somebody here was from the Center for Women in Enterprise. I wish I knew about them earlier. And I think that now in the day of social media, it's a lot easier to get there. It's a lot easier to know about organizations like that. So my reason for why is it so lonely is because taking those risks are really, really hard. And once I found my group of people within EO, within, just my group of friends, gosh, so much smoother.
Oh, wonderful. Great. Yes, we're definitely, and I should have said this earlier, is that we are all members, all of us are members of the Boston chapter of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. So certainly any questions specific to that, we have other support team from EO on here as well. So if you'd like to know anything about our robust programs, and there's so many, and anytime you talk to anybody from EO, we'll probably be extra passionate about it. But there's, we had Ryan mention that we've got a student program. So we will meet you where you are. If entrepreneurship is anywhere in your DNA, we will absolutely meet you where you are. So please, we'll continue to talk about it, but also let us know if you're interested in more information. So Wendy, why do you think that entrepreneurship is, why or do you think, and how do you think that entrepreneurship is specifically lonely to women?
Why, do, and how? Okay.
I didn't know, I wanted to make it an open-ended question. So how is entrepreneurship is it, do you feel that there is a gender thing here, right? Is it lonelier for women than men? Any feelings around that?
Well, I can't speak to how men feel about loneliness in it because I haven't had that experience, but I can talk to the general feeling of loneliness as a business owner. Even though there's so many business owners, like if I think of who in my neighborhood, I can think of one person who owns a business. She's an attorney. And one other one, she's an executive chef. So, and ironically, they ended up being my closest friends. I hadn't thought about that before. But they're the ones that we go to talk about. But as an entrepreneur, you're responsible for, okay, so this is how it affects me, is I'm responsible for all the functional groups. So, at the same time that I have an operations problem, I've got an HR, not problem, but growth area or focus of attention. So right now, and then I've got finance and I've got marketing and sales and everything. So I'm always juggling lots of different things that I don't just go to one network to find an answer for. So for example, right now, I really want to grow out the sales department, and I've typically been doing that on my own. And I need to figure out what kind of person is going to fit with my culture, how I'm going to compensate that person, how, the mistakes I made before, how am I going to learn from those? How am I going to develop a sales process in there? And my head's kind of swirling with all this stuff. And nobody in my company has experience in that. And it's a lot to figure out. Plus I've got my own personal fears of it's a big investment to bring somebody on. And if that person doesn't work, how am I going to get through that? So that's where I feel kind of the loneliness is where do you lean? And so that you asked about loneliness. So I'll stop there. We'll get to solutions later.
Yeah, well, wait, we're going to get there for sure. So thank you. So Kathy, you're busy. You have multiple businesses. You've got lots of employees. You're busy. So what is most stressful about being siloed?
What is most stressful about being siloed? I guess I'm going to turn it around. One of the reasons I like entrepreneurship for me is I don't like to do the same thing all the time at all. I like to be able to, and I complain a lot about one hat off, the next hat on. I do complain about it, but in reality, I think it is exciting to me to be able to affect each one of those is the levers of my business. Like Wendy was saying, the sales and marketing, that's my gig. I do that really well. Finance, I have some help from one of my sisters actually, who keeps my books, and we meet regularly and we go over all of that. So I don't feel siloed in that respect, but there are days when, today is the day I've got to put my head down and get 50 calls made, and I need to have 4 appointments by next Tuesday, or else, I'm not going to have a pipeline that I need. So that silo, I feel the pressure, but to me, it's a little game I play with myself too. I used to have, in real estate, there was a metric I used. It was, I had to make 75 calls. With 75 calls, I would talk to 35 people, and with 35 people, I get 1 appointment. And from there, I'd get the business. So I knew my statistics: 75 calls, 35 contacts, 1 meeting. And usually once I got in the door, eventually I would sell. So that was how I set myself up. I actually like having, I play these little games with myself. I like having this, okay, so I'm on call number 74 people have just said no. The next person's definitely going to be the one that says yes, So that's how I handle the silo. I appreciate it. I consider myself unemployable pretty much in that if I didn't have my own company, I wouldn't really fit into many of the companies I know about. And so I'm happy to have the flexibility to do what I do. I appreciate being an EO because it keeps me, Entrepreneurs Organization is a great peer-to-peer learning organization. I'm not getting advice from people who have never done stuff before. I'm learning from other people who are business owners who have done this, and they tell me what happened to them. So sometimes they say, I did what you're doing and I lost my shirt. And I say, oh, geez, maybe I shouldn't try it that way this time. So I do truly enjoy, doing all the different jobs, and I'm not feeling so siloed today, but I do have that sense at times where I'm just in this little world of my own. And that's where EO has come into my life and helped me a lot.
Wonderful. So this is my last question on loneliness, and then we'll go on to a different topic. And this is for everybody. We'll do a quick, a little flash round. And my question is, what are the top 1 or 2 things you do daily to overcome the loneliness? I'm going to let you think about it. I'm going to share mine because I too also am a business owner as well and an entrepreneur. So I am a very highly social person. So for me, it's really important to have lots of different communities. And I work out, I do a community gym experience. So right now we're doing outside workouts to keep everybody safe, but having that group workout experience first thing in the morning for me helps me combat the loneliness. So let's see, Kathy, I'll hand it back to you just quickly. Top 1 or 2 things, daily loneliness combaters.
Yeah, I mostly what I do is reach out to, well, I do 2 things. One, if I'm lonely and in a good mood, I'll make sales calls because that's just kind of dialing for dollars. And
that is
if I'm lonely
special
and not,
talent right there.
Yeah,
that's
if I'm lonely and not in a good mood, I don't do that because it comes through, on the phone. But if I'm lonely and not in a good mood, I'll call one of my sisters and kvetch. Many of us are entrepreneurs, and so we support each other that way too.
Okay, great. And Wendy?
My daily workout, and I hear you about the community, and all summer I swam in an outdoor pool with a community doing a master's, and I horribly miss that. So I haven't figured out where I can go for the outside workouts to get that. But still, even doing my daily workout just seems to balance my mind really well. And then the other thing that I do is if I'm feeling lonely, it's usually because I need to have a connected conversation. So if it's something I'm working on, I'll think, okay, I'm not in this alone. Who can I call to get some advice and have a connected conversation on that? If it's just a general loneliness feeling, I go grab my 16-year-old son and say, hey, I need a hug.
Oh, that's nice. Good tip.
Pepe Le Pew pull away, but
right. Fantastic. Thank you. So Nicole, I'm excited to hear your kind of 1 or 2 top tips.
I think with COVID, I think everyone's a little bit extra lonely.
Yeah.
I play a lot of games on Steam. I play a
Oh,
lot.
really?
I grab my phone, or I grab my phone. I grab my computer, I grab my friends, and I tell them to jump on. We play a lot of video games.
That's nice. Nice. All right. All right, Nicole, keep your mic open, please, because I'm coming at you next.
Cool.
And remember, everybody, please jump in with questions, either in the chat box or raise your hand. We want to hear from you too. I mean, I've got loads of questions, but you might get sick of hearing my voice. So FYI. All right. So Nicole, building a business, as you know, since you have 3 of them, correct? Yes. That takes time and energy and support. So who do you ask if you need help?
Sure. I used to ask everybody. I used to ask everybody for their opinion. And that's where I went wrong, because everybody has an opinion and everybody would love to tell you what to do, right? Here's the problem. Some people will tell you what to do based on fear. Some people will tell you what to do based on logic, which sometimes isn't the best. And then sometimes people will tell you what to do based on because they're dreamers and what they wish they could do. So eventually you start sort of cherry picking what information you want to listen to. And it's kind of, I guess it's kind of like parenting. Like you wouldn't ask for parenting advice you wouldn't ask for sleep training advice from a parent who has a 5-year-old that still isn't sleeping and who has never slept more than 16 seconds. So I always started gravitating towards people who were the dreamers, who are people who wanted to make their lives and design a life that was a little bit different than the 9-to-5 corporate grind. Or in my situation, it was like a 7 a.m. to like 2 a.m. corporate grind. So for me, after I made all those mistakes about asking every single person in the world what I should do, I started honing in on the people who genuinely really wanted the best for me and genuinely understood me and what I needed. And that was my husband, a mentor that I found through a friend of a friend of a friend who also left big corporate to do entrepreneurship or to be an entrepreneur. And then the third was a really close friend who cared about me extremely deeply. That was in big corporate, but she understood me.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you. And Kathy, Nicole mentioned finding a mentor, a friend of a friend of a friend, because that's how it happens sometimes. So you've had a long history. So do you still seek mentorship now? Is that helpful still? I mean, you're so seasoned and so successful. How is that, if it is, still an important part of your journey?
Absolutely. In fact, the analogy is, does Tom Brady have a coach? Yeah, he does. He has like 5 of them, right? So if you're really good, you seek out people who can help make you better. And I'm not saying I'm really good, but I am a huge advocate of mentorship. I have been a mentor. I've actually been a mentor. I started counting it up for this, and I think I'm on my 17th. I think I've mentored 17 different businesses, not including the folks. I volunteered at the Veterans Administration with veterans who are starting their businesses. And I taught them once a week, but I don't consider that mentorship. Mentorship to me is meeting with specific individuals about their business plans and helping guide them. So I have had many mentors, both paid and volunteer, and people who volunteered to mentor me. And I have volunteered to mentor, as I said, 17 other people, because I'm such a believer in how it all works. And it's kind of fun for me at this stage in my business game, because, I mentor mostly young business owners, and so their feeling is a lot of what comes out of my mouth seems like it's just incredible wisdom, when really it's just gained experience from the school of hard knocks. And I try to be as humble about it as I can, but I get a lot of really great feedback, and I'm in touch with a lot of people who I've mentored. Conversely, I need mentorship myself. I need someone to be accountable to sometimes. And I've done it in different ways. I've had individuals, consultants that I've paid. I've gone to a program called Strategic Coach, which met quarterly, and I learned through them a bunch of different tools. I went there for 7 years, so all kinds of different things. And I am a huge advocate that we can all, you know what, we can all do this ourselves, right? We can all do it ourselves because we're smart, successful women. But it's not necessary to make all those mistakes again if there's somebody who can help you, avoid them. So that's why I'm a big proponent of mentors.
Great. And can you just talk for one moment about how the role of mentorship at EO? Because a lot of those 17, were they through EO, or was that?
Yes.
Okay.
So Entrepreneurs Organization very wisely, maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago or so, decided that it would foster smaller businesses whose growth track would allow them to get to the revenue level that you have to be at to join Entrepreneurs Organization, which you have to have $1 million in revenue in your business to join EO. But before you get to the $1 million, you have to have some revenue. And so the folks in EO constructed this program called Accelerator that helps small growing companies accelerate their growth to get to that $1 million. And many of the people that I mentored have started out with smaller businesses and have since grown them to the point where they could join EO as a member, and they got their revenue to that level by having the discipline to do all the things that we learn through the mentors and through the other programs that EO Accelerator provides. It's a really amazing program, and I certainly wish when I was growing my business, it would have been so much more helpful to me to have gone into Accelerator. One of the reasons why I'll say that is literally I started my second business in 1990, the real estate business, and I ran that business for 4 years without really understanding how to read a financial statement. Can you believe that? Yep, I did. You learn that very early on when you're an accelerator. And I was afraid, not only afraid to ask, I was kind of embarrassed to ask. I was like, I'm supposed to know this stuff, right? And I didn't know who to ask. So that's Accelerator.
Great. And I too am a eoboston.org. There is actually a human behind that. In the comment box has put that he too started there he is. Yes. His name is Ryan, and he is fabulous. He too started in the Accelerator program, as did I. My business came through that program as well. So thank you, Kathy, for that. So Wendy, shifting a little bit of gears here, but certainly something that you know a lot about, and maybe this is something that potentially could be on the mind of some of our guests here, which is you deal a lot with international business. It's in the title of your company, right? It's in the name of your company, Rapport International. So less than 1% of US business is international, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And so how do you, if such a tiny, tiny slice of US business is international, how do you possibly get support for that? Where do you find that resource?
Good. Yeah. So I have a lot to add on that. First, Kathy, I talked to Mike the other day, and he said that you had mentored him when he was in the Accelerator program, and he said very nice things about you. So yeah, I can attest to your mentoring did pay off. And then we're talking a lot about EO that does have some revenue goals, and it is a well-kept secret because I've been a business owner for a while, and I just joined, so I can't talk as much to the experience since I joined when the world shut down. But I do have a mentor through that program that I'm very excited about. Where I went to mentoring early on when I didn't have the revenues to be part of the Entrepreneurs Organization was CWE. The Center for Women in Enterprise is out there. They have free consulting, they have free classes, they've got a lot of resources to help, particularly startup businesses. So there is somebody on here from the Center for Women in Enterprise. So if you're thinking about starting a business or you've got questions, definitely reach out to them and ask how they can help you. Now, if you have something that you're developing that could be international, The biggest mistake I'm seeing with people is they're not thinking about that early on. I know some technology companies that didn't build their platform to be able to take translation, and that's caused problems later on. So even if you're at the startup phase, make sure you're thinking about that. And there are resources to help companies export. And the big one in Massachusetts is Mass Export. That's the state organization, and then the Federal Department of Commerce has an international trade specialist that sits at Mass Export. And again, they have free resources that can help you, plus they have grants that can help you optimize your website for doing international sales, and grants for translation. And the reason that they do this is that they want to balance the trade. You always hear about the imbalance of trade and all the imports that are coming into the United States. Well, they also want to, it's to the US and the government's advantage to have exports going out too. And there's huge potential, huge. And the majority of the companies that do export are small and mid-sized companies. So even if you say less than 1%, about 98% of those 1% are small and mid-sized businesses. So it's something to consider early on in your business.
Great. Thank you so much for that experience. That's terrific. Nicole, we need, as entrepreneurs, we need that heads down time, right? You do need alone time. So how do you find that balance between like, okay, I've got to get my stuff done and I need to be heads down, and some of it can be arduous. And then also finding that balance of like, but I'm also lonely and I need my people.
Yeah. I live by my Google Calendar. So a couple things. I'm big on block scheduling, which means that you pretty much just block out the stuff that you need to do in your calendar. There's something called the Pomodoro technique, Pomodoro like the tomato. And in a nutshell, it says you work like a crazy animal for 25 minutes. You stay hyper-focused for 25 minutes. Then you give your brain a break for 5 minutes. And you do that in 4 cycles. And then after 4 cycles of Pomodoro, 25-5, then you give yourself a longer break. So it sort of congratulates yourself on doing a job well done. And then eventually, as your brain gets stronger in doing that, you can stretch out those 25 minutes. So block scheduling and hyper focusing on that has been really, really great, especially because I'm hyper distracted. Like there's so many things here that I can, like, I would rather just eat Cheez-Its all day. And I think another thing that is really great in terms of finding that balance, because if it were up to me, I would work all day and my friends would literally have to come to my door and like pull me out. With that said, no one comes to my door because pandemic, but I don't have COVID, just pandemic. And I think it's a situation where, as diligent as I am about blocking out specific time, I also now block out time to hang out with people so that I can, make that a priority. And I think that's what it comes down to, making things a priority for things that are important.
Great. Thank you. I did the time blocking too. I hadn't heard of the tomato technique, the Pomodoro technique. So that's great. Wonderful. Thank you. So Kathy, wait, before I jump to Kathy, we can ask questions. Come join me, join the fun, come up with a great question or come up with like a really mediocre question and you'll still get a great answer. So
Patty has a question.
Who?
Patty.
Oh, all right. Jump on in.
Okay, so sorry, I tend to talk in circles, so I got to make sure I say this so everybody's like into.
We are here for you. We are listening and we are here for you.
We're talking in circles.
So I mentioned in the chat, like I am a social work student and it's been heavy, kind of like full transparency. It's been really heavy on my heart. The social climate that we're living in a pandemic, and how it affects the community of people of color. I am of Haitian descent. And so one of my lifelong dreams is always to be an advocate for the Haitian community and people of color, of course. As a social worker, being in my second year, because I go to school part-time, I work full-time for the city of Boston, it feels like it's weighing me down. So I guess part one of my question is, I know a lot of you took the leap of leaving corporate America and then, jump it in. I think for me, because I am a student and I don't want to seem like I'm getting distracted by impulsively going into leaping into a business, and like I need my full-time job and I need to be able to support myself.
Yeah.
So how does one transition, even if it's from like scratch, like doesn't have anything, right? Like I don't have this business account that I'm having that's like building up a cushion or anything like that. What would be some advice that you would give? And I'll pause here. I'll come back with my second part question just so I can give everybody the answer because it's a little loaded. I want to jump into planting a seed and currently working on creating a blog site just to get my visibility out there and people kind of know who I am before I like fully launch. Unfortunately, in the last 4 months, I feel like my vision and the planting of this business has changed periodically every time I go to someone new to help me out with something that I thought I was going to do. Then it's like, no, you should go this way. And I'm just like, is there a manual? I just want to do it right the first time, but that's not a real thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of opinions. Nicole, do you want to jump in a little bit on this?
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay.
first of all, it seems like you're a huge hustler and I respect that so much. Don't ever lose that because that's what will separate you from everybody else. That hard work and working smart and all those other stupid memes that you see on the internet. But here's my experience. I can't tell you what to do because I don't exactly know your entire world, but here's what I thought. I had to be really practical. I helped support my family, my brother, like there's a lot of financial obligations that I had. So I couldn't just do like the dream and like I couldn't just quit everything and be like, I have no income, I have no health insurance, but I'm going to start this crazy little business. That wasn't going to fly with me personally. And it definitely was not going to fly with my family. So what I felt that was reasonable was I finished school, I worked, and then I built up a little bit of a financial nest egg. And when my business was at a point where I literally could not balance everything anymore, where I just had sleepless nights because I was working so much and the business was financially stable enough to do its own thing, then I said, hey, maybe my full-time job can be scooted off to the side and I can do this new thing full-time. And fun story, I actually quit exactly 10 years ago to the day. And today I'm also meeting up with the partner. Yeah, it's super fun. But I'm also meeting up with the partner who I submitted my 2 weeks into. I actually gave him 6 weeks because I really like the company and I didn't want to let them go like too crazy. I also wanted to make sure that I had really good relationships with them just in case if my business didn't work out and I had to go back. So I think in a nutshell, how do you know? You never know. There's no manual. There's no like one set path. You have to kind of figure out your own path and make your own mistakes. And I hate making mistakes. And I continuously make mistakes. And you get to learn from them and it's awesome. You also don't have to stay on mute if you don't want to. But in terms of when, you'll probably know. Like you'll know when it's like, now is the time. I feel good. I've got a plan. My mom always did that to me. When I had a really stupid idea, she would never say like, oh, this is a stupid idea. She would always say like, oh, write up a plan for it. And then my friend yesterday also said the same thing. And he said, halfway through the plan, if it was a stupid idea, I realized that halfway through when I was writing my plan. So write your plan.
I think my struggle is everything is in my head. And then I have anxiety trying to write it because then it feels like I'm mirroring something that already existed. And how can I be authentic in what my vision is if writing a plan in itself has some kind of format and maybe it's not the format I need to use, or maybe it seems like I'm not really able to like put everything down to go in the right direction. I know the big thing everyone says is write it down, or you'll forget it, or you'll lose it. Even that process seems like, I don't know.
Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you're more of a record yourself, or maybe you're more of a talk it out kind of person.
Yeah,
I'm definitely
like a vision board.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wendy or Kathy, do you have anything to add to Kati's question? Wendy's nodding her head, and then we'll get to Charlotte's question. And then Kasi, we can come back to your second half if that's cool. Okay, great.
So, Kadi, we're all about diversity here, because when you pull in language and culture, and there is nothing harder than right now than being Black in the United States. So, you know, God bless you for taking this on. It's a hot time and it is so needed. I worked on the mission for the Greater Lowell Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Consortium. And just there's still some very backward views in the United States. Now, with that said, this is a tremendous opportunity to bring that to the forefront and actually have it talked about rather than pushed underneath like it's been for so long. Somebody that might be worth you reaching out to is Carol Copeland Thomas. She is a diversity consultant that I think highly of. I've done some speaking with her. I'll pull her in a lot of places. She's been running her business for a long time and mentors people and might be able to open some doors and help you out. There's also a couple of other people that if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I'll connect you to. One is a woman that's starting a diversity business to help large companies. Another one is working with social workers and trying to do some online training about this. So it can expose you to different areas that you're doing. So that's on the one side of it. The other side of it, when you have work and you have school and you're trying to start your business, see, there's a parallel that will go through all of those. So as you're writing, as you're picking topics for what you might have to write about for school, make sure you're writing it that it's about a topic that you can also use for your blog. I just sent a book into a publisher, and how we did that was our blogs turned into white papers, which turned into ebooks, which turned into sections for the book. And so if you think about everything that you're doing for school or work, look for the topics or the overlap or where they intersect, because there's probably something where you can leverage all that information.
Great thoughts. Thank you. Thank you.
And
We have
you said Carol Copeland Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And she's got her multicultural symposium coming up in a couple weeks. And I'm a speaker at that, but that's a good place to go to get into a community of people that are all kind of on the same mission that you are.
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Our next, I'm going to jump in with our question from Charlotte, and Kathy, I will then hand it to you, which is, do you think women-owned businesses are struggling more in the pandemic? And if so, why?
Well, Carrie, we actually talked about this at one of the board meetings for EO recently.
Oh,
The fact is that there are statistics about it, and women are leaving the workforce in almost 4 times as many women are leaving the workforce during this pandemic as men. And we all know there's a reason for that. It's a child care issue. It's women actually in most homes do carry more of a burden in the caretaking and the taking of the housework and all of that. And in addition, we're all trying to run our own businesses. I'm going to say a couple of things about that. One, being an entrepreneur has given me a lot of flexibility that I know I wouldn't have had if I were working for corporate America. And that flexibility has proven to be extremely, extremely valuable to me at different times in my life. One, of course, was when I had my son in 1994. I could do different things, take him into the office a little more and stay home a little bit more. And I had more flexibility than my compatriots in the corporate world at that time. And I saw that as a very valuable lesson. Recently, I was telling the group here before the call that my husband was diagnosed with melanoma in 2013. And he was very ill for 4 years before he passed. And I had the flexibility during the time that he needed me most to be able to be there for him and to be able to travel with him and still run my business from, I was in South Africa making calls at 3:00 in the morning. I was able to do all that because I was in charge of my own destiny. I didn't have to ask anybody's permission. and truly it was that flexibility was the most precious thing to me at that time as well. So yes, we are leaving. Yes, it is more difficult to be a woman-owned business anytime. It's definitely more difficult during this pandemic because the burden of managing online school and all the other things is still more heavily on women than men. Not everywhere, but here I know a lot of women who take more than their fair share. Some of it's them saying, I have to do all this, and some of it's the guys saying, you have to do all this, whichever. It's definitely a challenge. And I try to turn around and say, but I have more flexibility than a lot of my non-entrepreneur friends.
Great, wonderful. Wendy or Nicole, do you want to chime in on this question from Charlotte about whether women-owned businesses are struggling more in the pandemic?
I think Kathy articulated all the key points. I think it is still harder to be a woman-owned business with just access and everything. But yeah, right now I see a lot of women picking up extra stuff. But boy, I love that flexibility you talked about, Kathy. There's nothing like that. I'll work extra hours, longer hours, but just let me have my flexibility.
Yeah, I actually took a 7-week across the country in an RV with my son, my husband, my son, and 6 of his cousins twice in my career. You can't do that in corporate America.
I tried to talk my son, he's a junior in high school, into take an RV across the country now. I mean, he's kind of tired of at home learning, and I'm like, we're virtual, we could go, except he has a whole zoo upstairs, and so we'd have to figure out what to do with the animals, but couldn't talk him into it.
I can't tell you, every family gathering we get another story that people reminisce about those trips. It's awesome.
That is wonderful. Nicole, the flex thing that we're all talking about, so entrepreneurship, it's funny, flexible is not the word that comes to mind for me, but there are aspects of it that are flexible, right? We can kind of make our own oftentimes make our own rules. So where in your life does this work for you now, and or not work for you?
Yeah. Like I mentioned, the workaholic part is really tough to battle, but we do this by kind of saying we're going to set aside time to travel. And while we don't have a 7-week RV, what we do is we usually try to set aside 2 to 3 months out of the year where we're not in the country. And that's been really fun for me. My husband grew up in Asia, so we always, we ramp around that way. Most recently, we did a whole month in Tanzania. We camped through, we stayed with some of the tribal members, and that was really interesting. I went hunting with them. I cannot keep up with them. That was really tough. I was wheezing, can't run in that fashion or hunt. And every time I ran, I would scare all the animals away so they get mad at me because they had no food. But I think in terms of flexibility, for example, after this, I'm going to go take a nap. And, on non-pandemic days, I would go out and go grocery shopping when nobody else would be at the grocery store. I think that there's a lot of benefits to entrepreneurship and flexibility and being able to pick your own hours to work. And with that said, it's also really hard because there's no boss to remind you of certain things. You're your own boss, good and bad. So
Right.
Take that as you will.
Yes. The struggle for me is that everything, I often feel this is on me, and then getting, taking care of my employees and getting,
yes.
Right. So yes, I can go get my hair done in the middle of the day, which is very helpful for this. And there's that weight of, but I have to take care of all these people. And that to me is where EO definitely comes in and helpful, and having that support system.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, I think that even though all of our businesses are very different, all of our businesses are also very similar, and people problems are ubiquitous.
Yes.
It is the most insane thing to be responsible for someone else's livelihood, for their salaries,
Right.
for their health insurance. And it's a big weight. It's also a big honor, but it's terrifying. I've never been more scared than being in charge of someone else's salary.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. We got a question from Aaron. Thank you very much. Can you talk about how you created a structure for yourself in the first 3 months, 1 to 3 months of being full-time and entrepreneurs? Talk about it, a structure that you created. Anybody want to jump in with,
Yeah,
with
does
this?
Erin have a business, or is she getting ready to
Yes.
start, or, a little bit more about your background?
Yes. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Erin. Thank you.
Yes, and I apologize for not having my video on. But I actually have been working on my own business for about a year, and I just put in notice, or not just, I gave them 4 weeks notice. And actually, this is my first week being a full-time entrepreneur. So I have revenue coming in, I have customers, but it's definitely a little bit strange to think about, okay, I now have all this extra time. There's a lot of things that I want to do. And maybe I'll give an example, trying to decide if SEO, search engine optimization, is a better use of my time versus Instagram as a marketing tool. I should also say I'm starting a online content business. I've created a 10-week money course for high earning women. And I've had about 70 people go through the curriculum so far, and have another class of 30 that I'm working through right now. So I've created my first product, and marketing is one of the bigger things that I'm thinking about right now, and how to build that funnel.
Wow.
Okay. What's your company name, and put your website down below? Let's give a little PR here.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm not a
Congratulations.
natural marketer. Thank you.
I love that story, Erin, and congrats. That's the biggest step. You're like right at launch. It's very cool and very frightening and very exciting. Here's what I know. For me, I'll tell you my experience. I told you earlier, I'm the sales and marketing person. So to me, it's like to a carpenter, everything's a nail, right? To the sales and marketing person, everything has to be sales and marketing first, because that's my thing. But there's a whole bunch of other stuff, like actually building the website and having good IT and having all the stuff that I stink at. So what did I spend all of my time on? One thing. And what did I ignore? A bunch of other things that would have helped me a lot with my sales and marketing effort if I paid attention to them. So I would say my danger was not structuring my day to include all the different, like a little bit of time, just like when you're at school, if you have 5 courses, you have to dedicate a certain amount of time to each of the courses. It's the same thing in business. You have to dedicate a certain amount of time every week, especially to those things that you're not that good at, so that you can at least have the pieces in place, so that when you can afford somebody else to do them, you will be positioned to have the business that can hire new people. So that's where you're trying to get to. And I agree with Nicole. Like I live by my Google Calendar as well. And Nicole, congratulations to you for doing the Pomodoro technique so well, because I go in and out of it, but I really do think it's a great technique. So I would highly recommend attempting that. And just try it. Just try it for 2 weeks. I always say, try something for 2 weeks. If it doesn't work, debrief and adjust.
True. Very good.
Yeah, what I did when I first started out was Monday was finance day. Hate doing the finances, but they got to get done. So the rest of the week I could just dump it on my Monday pile. Tuesday was selling, and Thursday was selling. And so that was my primary focus for the day. Wednesday was marketing. And then Friday was my catch-all day. And so I just kind of dumped it into piles and excused myself from doing the other stuff. That's what I did for that. The second thing is, when I got a coach, but it doesn't have to be a paid coach. It can be just an accountability partner that you meet with every 2, 3, or 4 weeks, and you list out the goals that you want to get done. So I do that with a friend of mine in town who's a business owner, and we meet every other week. And so once a month, we focus on me, and once a month on her, and we set our goals for them. I use it to set my goals for the month. And then I can touch back on what did I want to accomplish that month. And there was a third thing that I can't remember. So we'll go with those 2.
Fantastic.
Oh, no, I remember what it was. The third thing is it sounds like you need a marketing plan because you don't know what to prioritize. So you do have to step back. So this friend of mine does do marketing consulting. And once you get a marketing plan established with what's your strategy, what are your goals, what are your target markets, differentiators, then you'll know whether to do Instagram or search engine, and then you block it off. So, this year I focused on this first 2 quarters, I focused on LinkedIn. Probably Q1, I'm going to focus on Facebook so that you're not feeling scattered. You know what you're responsible for.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. That's super helpful.
Can I jump in
You're
super
welcome.
quick?
Of course.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to echo what Ryan said in the chat about Traction. Awesome book. Fantastic, fantastic book. I've got 3 extra copies. If anybody wants to come by Quincy, I will leave them on my porch and you can have them. Dead serious. I have chicken scratches in some of them. I think it makes it more valuable. But the second thing I wanted to recommend is there's a book called Profit First, and it's a quick read. It's easy, and it really says to take the activities that will, well, first of all, it's profit first. So make sure you pay yourself before spreading it to everybody else. But another thing it talks about is the 20% of activities that will give you the most revenue. And maybe that's SEO, maybe it's the podcast, maybe it's blogging, maybe it's, going out and networking, but really identifying which ones are the revenue generators, which ones are the most important, and finding the ones that are least important, either farming it out, outsourcing it, or like doing it all in one big chunk. Like for example, Instagram is something that my photography business needs to do, but it's not something I need to do every day. So one day a quarter, I schedule all of my Instagram posts on later. And I think right now, all of my Instagram content is scheduled until August of 2021. So it's sort of like set, forget, and you step back and you're good to go. And then eventually, with the whole profit first system of making sure that you have money coming in the bank, you'll be able to hire virtual assistants and like all those other things so that you don't have to be as confuzzled about like, which one should I do first? You will be able to very clearly say, here are the 3 things that need my attention. And then you can say, here are the other 6 things that are going to my VA. But please come by my house and pick up my book because
Right.
I would love for it to go towards somebody.
Wait a minute, Nicole, you just used a word that I love and I've never heard before, confuzzled.
Oh.
Is that an official word or is that
I don't know. Don't Google it. Don't embarrass me.
Both, I speak from experience with both those books are fantastic resources and are really helpful for growing your business. So talking about getting help, right? Nicole mentioned about hiring a virtual assistant. Do you guys remember early days? So again, that maybe not the first 3 months, but maybe the first year, 18 months. What was the first outsourced help that you brought into your business? And maybe it was from day one. So Wendy, Patty acquired a business. So maybe it was, a little bit different for you that what was, if you recall, kind of that first outsource, that first, like, I'm going to pay for help and get something to help me that I'm not doing myself. Wendy, do you remember what it was for you?
Yeah, for me, it was to hire a project manager because when I did take over the company, she didn't have a team that was doing the office support. So how I've kind of looked at it is I build something up enough where there's a process enough that I can pass it off. And it's usually the things that I don't like doing. So I've tried to pass off more and more and keep the sales and marketing on. Now I'm just too busy. That's why I've decided I really need a salesperson I can pass off. And then that frees me up to do more thinking. But for me, it was the detailed project management. I'm like Kathy, I want to do the sales, the marketing, and for me, the creative thinking, the big thinking.
Excellent. Thank you. Kathy?
For me, so I went through, I mentioned this program I did for 7 years called Strategic Coach. And one of the concepts there is find out what your unique ability is for your business and for your life. Like, what is it that you do that doesn't even feel like work, right? What is that? What gives you energy, not takes it away about what you do for your business, and figure out a way to make that be the thing you do 80% of the time and outsource everything else. So I call the everything else, I call administrivia for me, you know, things that are not, I'm not talking to somebody who has business potential. I'm not doing something that I enjoy or that gives me energy. It takes energy away. The administrivia part of my business is what I outsourced as immediately as I could. And fortunately for everybody around me too, because I hired somebody for whom that was their unique ability. So they were better at that. And I was, you know, I was outside, they were inside, right? Outside Kathy versus inside Kathy.
Great. Nicole, do you remember I know you have a lot of choices for your businesses, but pick one.
For photography, the first thing I outsourced was my photography editing, because A, I sucked at it, and B, it was the biggest time suck. And it's not something that I needed to do. And then the second thing that I sort of outsourced, I actually traded, but I traded some social media strategy stuff with photography. So I photographed their headshots, and they gave me a couple of hours of like a big overview of what I should be focused on. And that was really helpful. And then I ended up hiring her anyway.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Please, anybody else who wants to jump in with questions, please do, either on the chat box or raising your hand, whatever you'd like. I'm curious to know that we've all been in business for a variety of time, and what's been the biggest metamorphosis, the biggest change from when you started to where you are today? So for example, I own a communication skills training firm. And when I started the business, I was doing everything. I was doing all the training, all the sales, and very much so have actually handed off the classroom training to my staff. That's a huge difference. And I don't think that 9 years ago, Carrie would have ever believed that I'd be able to step away from the classroom training. So that's been a nice metamorphosis for you. So Wendy, what's kind of been your biggest metamorphosis within your business? And how long have you had Rapport International?
16, not 17 years.
Oh.
So 16 years ago, I made the first acquisition. And, you know, for anybody there that's thinking about, you want a business and you don't know what to start, or maybe you want to jumpstart it, go look online and find stuff, because baby boomers are starting to retire. And I was able to get a home equity line to buy the first one. And then 5 years ago, I got an SBA backed loan to make a second acquisition. So the biggest change for me is transitioning from that I know everything that's going on to passing stuff off and decisions, and you know, and being good with that, which I actually love when I actually do it. That's one thing. And then the other thing is to realizing that I can't solve it all in my head, and talking to my team and the better answers that we get from that. So it can be a really hard transition area, or it was a hard transition area for me, but it's so much better.
Good. Kathy, I want to change the question for you a little bit, actually a lot bit, because your 80% is sales and marketing, and you love it. And sales, and certainly being in business and entrepreneurship, means a lot of rejection. Are you guys, Wendy, Nicole, agree with me? Entrepreneurship means, no, Wendy's actually disagreeing with me.
You know, you can take it as rejection, or you can take it like, you know, that TV show, The Price is Right.
Yes.
You want what's behind door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3. And if you knock on door 1 and that's not what you want, then you got to go on to door number 3 and then 2, or to find the golden egg you're looking for.
I like the way you're looking at it. I giggled because I've been on The Price is Right. So
you have been now.
Yes, well, we can talk about that another day. Kathy, my question for you is, oftentimes some people feel that being in business means dealing with a lot of rejection, and certainly sales does specifically. So how do you deal with all that rejecting? How do you deal with rejection?
Head game. Okay, there are 3 things I can tell you I do very effectively. One is I really do play head games with myself. So if I've set my calls, today, if I know my stats are 75, 35, 1, I got to talk to 35 people. When I get to my 35th person, whatever it is, I give myself a present, whatever, I go out for a walk. I have an ice cream, whatever. I do something like that. The second thing is I am not, I don't know. I guess I've just always looked at sales as this is not a necessary evil for me. This is part of what successful businesses do. No business makes any money until somebody sells something. I didn't say that, somebody much smarter than me did. So I don't see it as a lot of rejection. And then the other part is minimize the potential for rejection. How do I do that? Couple of different things. One, before the pandemic, I was famous for that never eating lunch alone thing. I would have lunch with somebody different, new, all the time. And online, you can talk to different people. I'm not as good at that because I'm of the older generation. But I do think, I think setting myself up to build my network. I hire a lot of interns in my alternative energy business, and I have for many years, probably the last 12 years, I've had at least 3 to 5 interns a year. The very first thing I tell them, and they never believe me, is it's not what you know, it's who you know in this town. So don't eat lunch alone, go to every networking event you can, and that sets you up for being in the right place, supposedly being in the right place at the right time, like it's just magic. It isn't. It's a lot of hard work. So I do the work to improve my odds. I play head games with myself, and I give myself a break too. I almost only make calls when I'm in a good mood, because I really do believe that comes through. One of the little things I did in my real estate business is I put a mirror next to everybody's desk when they were making calls. Because when you look at yourself in a mirror, it's really hard to look at yourself frowning and make calls. So that mirror helped people smile a lot. That smile comes through. It really did work. They saw the work, that it worked.
Wholeheartedly agree with that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Kati, can I come back to you for the second half of your question? Are you up for it?
Sure. I don't remember what it is, but I always have questions.
Okay, great. Well, then anything.
This is usually a question I like asking towards the end of any person-to-person interaction, but I'll just ask it anyway. If you had an opportunity to share 1 or 2 things with your younger self, what would it be?
All right, Kati's taking over my job when this is over, and I love this question. And let's start with, Wendy, you want to jump in with your younger self?
Yeah, just believe in yourself, or trust yourself. I think it goes back to Nicole's, you try to get all this advice to everything. And I think it's taken me a lot of years to learn to trust my gut and really pay attention to that. So that's helped to fine tune that.
Thank you. Kathy?
I wish I didn't wait as long to ask for other people's money in my business. I was competing with a lot of people who were well financed, better financed than me, and I didn't think I deserved to get the money. And I got candidly, I think I did get a few lines of credit that I probably didn't deserve, but they helped me grow my business immeasurably. And I waited too long to ask for that.
Great. Thanks. Nicole?
One would be to invest in Bitcoin.
Uh-huh.
2 would be
Too late now.
I know. Younger self.
Younger self, right?
2 would be to eat less cream cheese, because it's really hard to lose weight after you gained out all pandemic pounds. And then the third thing would be to, I don't know if this would work, but I would love to tell my younger self to be slightly less stubborn. I really wanted to learn specific things, especially things that I wasn't good at. And I wish I could just say like, hey, just know enough to be dangerous. So for example, I wish I could just know enough about pay-per-click social media, paid ad spend, enough to be dangerous, so that I could hire somebody and then speak the language and know that when I hired somebody, it was a good fit and keep them to track. I tried doing the pay-per-click, doing it myself for one of our companies for like a year. And we did like mediocre results. And we finally hired somebody 2 weeks ago, and she's made more revenue in 2 weeks of pay-per-click ads than I did for an entire year. So I wish, yeah, Bitcoin, stubborn, cream cheese.
I like it. I eat a lot of cream cheese, so I'm a little offended, but we're still friends, so that's good. I want to jump in on this one because it harkens back to something we talked about earlier, which is you are no, not The Price is Right. Is that you will probably get so much advice and so many opinions that I remember really early days, like showing people like a brochure, like, oh, here's the brochure. And somebody would look at it and they'd be like, okay, can I give you some feedback? You know what? I really wish I would have said no to the question of, can I give you some feedback? No. And now, more experienced self, I would have said, I'd love to hear about your experience with designing a brochure, but saying no to unsolicited feedback is my big one. All right. Any other quick? No, this was love, Kati. Thank you so much. And we're kind of nearing the end, so it's nice. It was a perfect segue. Thank you. Certainly, let us know if you have any more questions in our remaining time together.
Aaron
Yes.
on the line and Michaela. I'm kind of curious what you guys do, what you're hoping to get out of it, or any questions you have.
Please let us know. Jump in, put something in the chat, whatever you'd like. So,
did you want me to answer?
Michaela,
yes, Michaela, we want you. If you're on, you're on.
Yeah. I'm not an entrepreneur, but I work directly for an entrepreneur and run a shared office space, and all my clients are entrepreneurs. But I'm always like doing, a little bit of sales. I have the same, Erin, go back and forth between Instagram, SEO today. I don't know. So I sort of feel like I'm an entrepreneur sometimes. And so I'm just trying to be a sponge and learn as much about how to, I guess, start my career here and also where it will lead down the road. And I guess just learn how to better support my clients. And yeah, I guess I'm just here to learn.
Are you close to Quincy?
I'm not in Quincy. Well, I'm in downtown Boston. So
I was going to say, get over to Nicole's house. And
Boston. I'll be at Trapology. We're right across the street from the Common. I'll bring a book there. I have lots of books. All my books.
Exactly. Close enough. We can make it happen.
Yeah, Tremont Street.
Yeah, because if you read that and then start talking that language with your entrepreneurs, you'll have started a whole little business and you'll be able to walk whatever road you want.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Thank you.
Not to mention the fact that if I had someone who worked for me who I knew was attending something like this to get to understand their role better, I would be so happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great. I'll keep an eye on the chat or hands for any other questions. I have 2 more questions for the panel. Everyone's going to answer them. Panelists, fabulous women, are you ready?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. As an entrepreneur, it's a fill in the blank. As an entrepreneur, delegation to me means, Kathy.
Oh, delegation to me means asking someone to do what they're good at and making them accountable for that, but maintaining responsibility, to oversee it.
Nice. Wendy, delegation to me means?
Well, maybe that's why Kathy's a better business owner to me, because all that I could think of was freedom.
That's perfect. There's no right or wrong here. This is perfect.
Yeah, but that coming back and managing and accountability, yeah, I'm still working on that one.
Got it. Nicole, delegation means to me, you may not say cream cheese. Off the table. Go ahead.
Jeez. I think Kathy has the more eloquent answer. If I were completely honest, delegation to me is paying somebody to do something that they're good at that I'm not good at, but then me freaking out about, did I make the right choice of hiring somebody? Is this money well spent? Could I have done it faster? Should I take the money back? And should I do it back and try to learn it again?
Oh,
Yep.
I've done that a million times.
Yes. I think I asked this question because delegation is a huge part of growing as an entrepreneur and growing your business. And as you can see from three very seasoned women, that how it continues to be a struggle and it is an ever evolving thing. So
Is that different between women and men, delegation?
I don't know any statistics on that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. So here is, unless we have any other questions come in, here is my final question for everybody, which is that, so prior to, a statistic came out in March. Now I haven't found a more recent statistic. It's a statistic specifically about loneliness, because that's our topic, loneliness of entrepreneurship. So I want to end with a question on that, is that in March, and the study that I read came out on March 13th, which if anybody recalls is really the day that we kind of shut down as, at least here in the Northeast, that 40% of Americans were feeling lonely. So this is in March. And so what is the top thing that all three of you do every day to put that smile on your face, to get in a good mood, to make the sales call, to feel freedom in your business? Like, what's the top number one feel good behavior that you do every single day, Nicole?
Come back to me. I have to think.
Wendy.
Well, I was just kind of thinking of it. I did a leadership course with a coach that I worked with for years. And I'm looking up at you've got the stages of energy, and you kind of go into the low levels of energy, which are anger, desire, pride, where you're competing against others. But then when you work up to acceptance, reason, love, and joy and peace, you keep more of a I've got a late thing in my face, so I'm trying to keep that out of there. But you work more towards, that continual smile. And so when I first worked with her, I had a Post-it on my desk that said, "All is well." Because, if you've got a challenge coming at you, it's supposed to be there. It's the thing you're supposed to learn. If, just as if a good thing comes, it's supposed to be there. So my Post-it and my mantra, I don't know if you can see this, let me see is these are the good old days. So there's going to be a time that we look back at these days and talk about what we did. So I've written a book and launched the Global Marketing Show podcast. And this week I'm kind of in a lull and a little lower because the book went off to the publisher. So I'm not as frantic of doing that, but I know I can't start something else I'm interested in because the edits are going to come back in a couple weeks. So I look at my Post-it every day and I go, these are the good old days.
Right. Carly Simon would be so proud. Wonderful. Kathy got a prop too. Let's see what she's got for us.
Whatever you are, be a good one. By who? Who said it?
That's Abraham Lincoln. It's on it's literally sitting on my kitchen table. And it's been there for
Fantastic.
15 years.
Patty has you got this.
That's pretty good.
All right, Nicole, what puts a smile on your face every day?
I need a sign. I need a sign right now.
Yeah, that would have been cool. We weren't prepared.
I would say that the consistent thing that I do every day is listen to really great music. A lot of Beyonce, a lot of Alicia Keys, a lot of
Nice.
a lot of Greatest
Yes.
Showman. And I think that pumps me up quite a bit. There's nothing that I do consistently, but I need a sign. I'm going to buy a sign.
Great. Okay. I'll get you a sign.
Buy it. You can write it.
Or you
I'll
can
write
just write
this
it on a
down.
Post-it.
I have Post-its.
Well, I've certainly gotten a lot out of this morning. So thank you to all three of you for having us. Thank you to our guests who listened and those who participated. Thank you so much. We, of course, would be terrible entrepreneurs if we did not invite you to connect with each one of us on LinkedIn, or if anybody else has other preferred social, let me know. I personally can be found on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm guess Wendy's LinkedIn. Well, no, you're both. You said LinkedIn and Facebook, correct, Wendy?
Yeah, I'm much more active on LinkedIn, and I did put my
Okay.
post in the chat, but if you search for Wendy P's translation expert, we post all sorts of fun stuff.
You do post all sorts of fun stuff. Kathy, what's your preferred method of connection?
Yeah, I'm gonna just put my email into the
Okay.
chat. But
And as
I'm on
did Nicole
LinkedIn.
as well.
I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't do much on Facebook.
Yes.
So.
Follow Nicole on Instagram, and we know we have content now till August, so that's pretty cool. Certainly any questions about EO and on the wealth of support that you can get, again, no matter what stage you are in life or within your business, EO is there to help as well. And with that, we thank everybody and are so glad that we had this opportunity to share our experiences with you today. Have a fantastic day, and we look forward to keeping in touch. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a blessed week.